welcome to all of you, to the 600 plus viewers who are watching us live today. Hello and welcome, because it's a very special occasion. We have somebody really special with me, like I said. You know, I wear Indian clothes, we wear Indian clothes. He wears India on his sleeve, and quite literally not just on his sleeve, but he wears it on his heart sleeve. He served the country with distinction, rose from the ranks of a cadet, and then finished as a lieutenant general. He's also gone on and become the Chief of Integrated Services. So in a way, he's headed all the three services, the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. And yet he smiles, which is a good thing. Because after all that pressure, yet you are smiling, sir. And it's a pleasure to be able to talk about India's brave heart to one of the brave hearts of our country, who's done so much for our nation, both on the field and off the field, and not just like our Indian cricketers who performed on the field, but he's led a distinguished career even off the field, and he has inspired millions off the field as well. So, Lieutenant General, pleasure, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much for that very generous introduction. And Jai Hind, everybody. It is a pleasure and a delight to be here. And I really say that from the bottom of my heart, because I feel so very nice and alive when I'm connected to the youth, because you are the future of our country. You will take the country forward. And once again, I thank you for inviting me over here. And let me just end my opening remarks with this little sentence, because you gave me a cue. You said about me, he says he fights in operations, but yet he smiles. Sir, I smile because the soldiers of our country are so brave. The soldiers are so brave. They're very easily led. They just need a good leader, and they produce wonders. It gives you a reason to smile, always.
It gives you, and sir, you give us 1.3, you give 1.3 billion people a reason to smile. Just a few weeks ago, we had the good fortune of hosting General Bipin Rawat, sir, the first Chief of Defence Staff, and today I'm so delighted that we are being able to do this. So let me get straight to this, sir. It's not you as a classic author. You've not written as a classic author. It's a very simple read. सबको समझ में आती है. आपकी पुस्तक एक बार पढ़ लेते तो मतलब you feel Indian. You feel proud to be Indian. But where did the thought come? I want to ask you this. Where did the thought of writing a book come?
I have been going around to it's been 2 years to my retirement. I've been going around different colleges and universities, because I really like doing this. Wherever I'm invited, I like connecting with the youth, so that I can give back to the society. If there is some anecdote or story of mine that can touch their hearts, I am very happy. So having started like that, over a period of time, I've given several talks, and in the talks I use anecdotes from my own personal experiences, some of which I've reproduced. And so, some of them have brought out a lesson, a moral, or have touched somebody's heart, whether it is the youth, and I have been giving corporate talks as well, or learning lessons from the battlefield that can be applied in corporate and other walks of life. So, having said that, when I started doing that, somebody sort of started filling my mind with the idea, I think it will be a great idea for you to write. And so, here is this book, which, unlike what generals write, who are smart to write such books on strategy and international relations and higher strategy of military, it's a simple book of first-hand experiences of the soldiers in operations.
It's a very simple book, and it's a very simple book about a very interesting subject about counter strikes. And it's also the very famous surgical strike, which I should have asked people, how's the Josh? Because that is you are the person who actually led us out there. You're the real life Vicky Kaushal, like I said. I was telling them before you came that you're the man who's commanded and done this, carried out these strikes on numerous occasions. And your first chapter speaks about the surgical strike in Kashmir, in Uri. And in the helicopter, when you're seated, you say that you convert a problem into an opportunity. You convert something that is negative into positive. You had that thought in the mind, in your mind, when you were sitting in the helicopter for about 10 minutes, and you had that thought to yourself, and you wanted to convert that problem into that opportunity. And I want to ask you this, sir. When you are in battle and when you are in the middle of so much, you had 18 soldiers who had died. Is it something that comes naturally, comes easy to become a leader and to be a leader? There are many aspiring leaders, not necessarily in the army, but when there are situations like this, is there a quick fix solution that you run through your mind? There's 2 minutes of meditation, or how do you come up with the right solution at the right time?
Let me begin by throwing out a very huge disclaimer, because you started by saying that you are the real life Vicky Kaushal. No, sir, I am not. Because the soldiers, the majors who went across,
Of course.
they are the heroes. Because of security considerations, they cannot come out and speak in the open,
Right.
which is what everyone's role. And I also did not start writing about any such thing while I was in service. And even
Right.
now, I have not brought out anything in public domain which was not already known. I've just put things in correct perspective. And so, having said that, because I want to salute every soldier, every officer, every team leader, big or small, who went across and did this daring operation. So they are the heroes. I am just a writer. How do you think about these things? And you refer to my quoting that incident of sitting in the helicopter when I was flying back with Mr. Parikar, God rest his
Right.
soul. When I said, and you used some of those words, that there's so much of pain and anguish that day. My heart, yes, but it was also in the heart of every Indian. The whole country was outraged at the Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. There was a huge anger in the nation.
Right.
And the soldiers wanted revenge. The leadership of the country and the military was very agitated. We decided, and this is what I use this word, or words to this effect, we decided to turn this pain into an opportunity. And to turn the pain into opportunity, I talk around this several times to say that in every dark cloud, try to look for that silver lining. It will be there. Lurking in every upset, every failure, every challenge, whichever walk of life you may be, lurking in every such upset, failure, there is an opportunity. We have to have that spirit in us, that we don't get depressed. We have to look for that, and in so doing, you will find something. And then let me also tell you, end this by saying, don't forget that I have now described today what I felt that time. But remember that during those days, we did not know that this is going to become such a big operation. It will be remembered for all time. This is the first time that we struck across boldly and deeply and announced it to the world that we did it. We went across, we did it. So, but that time I did not know that it will be such a success. That time I did not know that we won't have a single casualty. That time you were taking a leap of faith. So, my dear friends, whenever you're faced with an opportunity, my suggestion is take a leap of faith with faith in God above and the soldier or whoever you have working under you.
But sir, to take that leap of faith, you took that leap of faith, and quite literally you took that leap right across the border. But in this case, sir, what I want to ask you is that there must have been, this was one of its kind. This was something that was unprecedented, not done before. When young people are faced with challenges such as these, and let me take you to the pandemic. The pandemic is also unprecedented, something that has not happened. And we were all faced with a situation that we've never faced, in the sense that we were all locked in and we had little to do in comparison to our day-to-day life. Now, as very many young people who are watching this and who will also be watching this recorded conversation, I want to ask on their behalf, how do you keep yourself motivated? Because at the end of the day, you've lost 18 people on the border. Here, the entire world was shut down. And I'll be very honest, the first 1 month, I quite literally didn't feel like doing much. And I'm saying this, and I'm pretty sure lots of young people also felt the same way, that in the first month, just by the pandemic, there you had lost 18 lives. So how do you keep yourself motivated and going at every point in time, especially in the face of adversity?
So first, let me just tackle that issue of how do you keep yourself motivated when I lost 18 lives, and then I'll come to the larger question of pandemic, which affects all of us, and venture out my opinion or advice. Um, when we lost 18 men in Uri, it is not that it has never happened to me in the past. I've had
Right.
upsets, and I write about it that I've had upsets, I've had losses, I've lost colleagues left and right of me, much closer to me. Here I was a corps commander, but I've lost colleagues next to me in an operation where I was facing bullets myself also.
Mm.
But there are two aspects to an officer, to a soldier. There is a man in me, and there is the officer in me. The man in me was saddened. For me, it is a dark day. I will never be able to forget it because it is as per the scale of the tragedy. But the professional in me, that's where the training kicks in, the motivation kicks in. The professional in me is unmoved. You have to take
Right.
very professional decisions. What happens in an operation when you are going, and this has happened with me, that you lost your soldier right next to you. But can you stop the operation and only look at him, or start weeping your tears of sadness? No, you have to continue with the operation. And it happens in wars. So many, I am only giving you small experiences of mine. There are so many warriors and soldiers who can tell you, recount such experience. They had to leave the soldier back, not look after his first aid, but first go and capture the objective. So it happens. So there's a man in me and there is a professional in me. So that military professionals are trained to do. Coming now to the issue of pandemic, we have to find it within us. Always, like I said, there is sadness. When some things happen, there is sadness. But if you layer sadness with only sadness, you will only get sadness multiplied. There is sadness, you have to suppress that for some time and look after the rest. There is a death in the family. True, everyone grieves, but you will find in the
Right.
family, there will be one or two who will start taking care of everyone, who will start organizing things, whether it's to do with the last rite rituals or the fourth or third, 12th, 10th day prayer or whatever. You will see some will start organizing and others will start following. There are leaders are thrown up like this, whether it's a group, family, community, or an army or a workforce. So in this pandemic, also, the whole mankind was suddenly facing one enemy and we were all fighting it together.
Right.
That is
Right.
one strength that grew out of it. Nature reclaimed its own spaces. Because of the lockdown, certain good things happened, which we all saw.
Right.
And today, let's say work from home, it's a culture that has spanned the whole globe. There are some
Right.
strengths that are coming out of it. The online platforms that you and I are talking on now have become
Right.
so much more strengthened and are being used. People are traveling less and less. That is all going to help the ecology. So there are several other things. So many youth have come forward. People who were totally engaged in commercial activities have given up chunks of their salary, have contributed to mitigate the sufferings of a poor worker who has not been able to earn daily wages. People go out and I see people go out and feed dogs more than they used to do earlier. So several other things have happened
Right.
which have got strengthened. I still wish the pandemic hadn't happened. We have lost so many lives across the world, and so many
Right.
more, their friends and relatives are traumatized and are saddened. However, like that raid of Uri, like any war, this pandemic has happened. We should only look at nothing else can be done about the sadness. So we should only look at what goodness can come out of it. Apart from making ourselves secure for the future, we need
Right.
to see if some good can come out of it.
But sir, you spoke about can some good come out of it, and that's good. So we will try to look at the positives. But my question comes, sir, from this, which is the fact that how do you keep yourself motivated and going? Now, the fact that you kept yourself motivated and going at every point in time by simply looking at the positives or hoping for the silver lining. So it does often happen, and mental health is a big concern, and just generally as well. So how do you keep yourself going? That is what I want to ask you. I know for a military officer, it's far more easier because as a cadet only, sir, you are trained to be disciplined and to be hardworking and so on so.
Right.
But for civilians like me, who sometimes go to sleep on a Sunday afternoon, the problem is how do you keep yourself going in the face of adversity? What is your message for young people who are watching? So how would they come to terms with the pandemic, if at all, God forbid, it were to happen again?
Let me begin by saying, let's hope there are no more such pandemics, and let the world be a better and a prepared place. Also, in terms of observing the right norms and attitudes, that we don't get into the pandemic. But
Right.
my personal take to keep oneself motivated is to harness the power of positive thinking.
Okay.
Positive thinking is very important. I have given talks around it. In fact, one of my TED talks is around positive thinking. I will not be able to repeat all that, but
Right.
positive thinking, if you harness the power of positive thinking, it will change the way you do things in life. It is said that when you steadily intend or wish for something very sincerely, the whole universe will conspire to give it to you. It is then that your will and divine will becomes one. In Hindu mythology also they say Atma or Paramatma ka milan. Do you remember Shah Rukh Khan's movie Om Shanti Om? You guys were too young. Yes,
No,
yes.
no.
You started saying it. Allow me to say this, or you want to say it? You can go ahead and say it. But like Shah Rukh Khan makes this very popular in a dialogue in that movie and said, अगर किसी चीज को पूरे दिल से चाहो तो सारी कायनात उसे तुमसे मिलाने में जुड़ जाती है. You know, the power of positive thinking can do astounding things. So
Right.
I would like to advise everyone, it is not easy. I agree with
Right.
you. So you may, it's easy for me to describe, say, okay, look for that silver lining in the dark cloud. So what if you took a leap of faith and that could not catch the silver lining and fell down again? Then my advice is get up again. If you've
Right.
fallen down, get up again. Find it within you to get up again and again till you find that. Maybe God is testing you. But if you lose sight of a positive thought, that may not be the way to do things. You asked me for my advice. My advice to the youth is have faith. Aaj nahi to kal, success will be mine.
Have faith, and we have faith in India's brave hearts, and the fact that they've been doing selfless service all these years. So let me take you to a very interesting aspect of your book. You speak about late Sri Manohar Parikarji and the fact that he came across as a very simple gentleman who you interacted with on occasions and grew more and more fond of him. So let me take you to this and ask you this difficult question, or what I think is a difficult question. But we've had these attacks in the past as well. We've had attacks from Pakistan which they've denied continuously. So in this case, the administration under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Modi chose to, with of course all of you in unison, chose to act on this particular count. So in your opinion, why have we not done this in the past? And was there a specific reason that this was done, or this is the one that is highlighted, which is why we know about it, and there have been countless ones before which probably have gone under the radar?
Okay, I'll take it in two parts. The first part first. Why we did it now was because, or 2016. Please transport yourself back to the year 2016. In the beginning of the year, in January itself, there was a similar attack at an airbase in Pathankot, where terrorists got inside the airbase, and for 2 days the operation went on, and then we suffered losses. In February 2016, huge, four terrorists got in, suicide terrorists got inside a huge 6-story building on the outskirts of Srinagar in a place called Pampore. It was a EDI building where 66 Kashmiri youth were taken hostages. We took 2 days to clear that building, knocked off all the terrorists, but we paid and got all the hostages safe, but we paid a very heavy price. We lost 3 brave hearts, 2 officers and a soldier, all special forces. In month of May that year, in North Kashmir, in a place called Tangdar, we had a terrorist strike, a similar terrorist strike on a small military base, bang on the line of control,
Right.
where the casualties were lesser. So this and some more had been building up. And this
Right.
was perhaps when Uri happened on 18th of September 2016, it was perhaps the last straw. Also, you asked me why it did not happen earlier. So it was perhaps the last straw. It was also the fact that on such a big magnitude, and the defense minister, late Mr. Manohar Parrikar, flew in that very day.
Right. Right.
I also written in the book, I don't deny it, that I did not want him to come. I said, why today and all that. But the fact that he came, and then I write about it, and we decided to see as to how can we turn this pain into an opportunity.
Right.
And because he came that very day, when you see things on ground yourself, you get so moved. And when we said, you give with all the at the back of all these developments that have been taking place, and here was the defense minister who was very bold. The leadership in the country was bold enough to take this step when we said we will do it. We will do something which will hurt, because every time we are on the defensive, they send in terrorists and we cannot do anything across. Let us go across and hit those terrorists. We will only hit the terrorists. And the leadership was bold enough to take that decision, and surgical strikes happened. As to your question as to why, earlier also have things taken place and we haven't done it. Okay, I haven't forgotten it. The dynamics of the army deployment and operations on the LOC is such that aggressive domination or aggressive defense of the LOC is a part of our operational list. So we do have issues. I will not go beyond that. But why this is called surgical strike and not others is for 2 reasons. One is, the smaller reason is that we, for the first time, combined all elements of power between 18 September and 28 September. Because in those 10 days, we combined the diplomatic angle, we combined the political angle, the commercial, all that put together to shape the international opinion against Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. United Nations General Assembly was in session, Nawaz Sharif speech took place, and thereafter our foreign minister, so on, so on. But the bigger reason was this, and this is the telling reason. The bigger reason was any operation that you may have done or not done in the past. But here was an operation which the leadership was bold enough to make an announcement. We, unlike Pakistan, which sends in terrorists and uses the deniability card. No, we haven't sent in terrorists till we offer them proof. We said, yes, we have done it. We have done it, and we have done it because you did Uri. We don't want to escalate matters further, but this was done because of this reason. We announced it to Pakistan. We announced it to the world. We took up the Director General Military Operations, held a media conference, and openly announced it to the world. So, you take ownership. That is why it is said.
So, but this is regarded as the first surgical strike, if I am not wrong, in independent India's history, sir. The border skirmishes from 47 have been going on, and like you said, Pakistan usually puts up their hand, and whether it be with no disrespect, right from the time that I followed history, I followed India-Pakistan, which is from the 99 Kargil War, and one of our board members, General Ved Prakash Malik, keeps telling me about this, about the war and General Musharraf and so on and so forth. So right from that time, there have been these skirmishes where Pakistan put up their hand and said, we are not responsible. And then there has been lack of something. So was it, do you say that, political will in this case was a little more in comparison to the previous establishments? Would you care to comment on that, if I'm not probing too much like a journalist, because this is not a journalistic interview, this is just for young people. So I just wanted to understand, do you think that there was more political will when it came to Defense Minister Manohar Parrikar ji in this case in comparison to his predecessors?
I'm going to disappoint you. The short answer to your question is no, full stop. And what is my no to? You asked me, would you care to comment on this, that whether it was the political will? I would not like to get into the realm of a political discussion. I'm a soldier, let me be there. And I have actually brought out things very correctly, that the leadership took ownership, and that is why, you see, if you don't take ownership, you don't own a thing. Okay. We were fortunate. I think fortune favors the brave that we did not have a single casualty. Such operation of such great magnitude, we didn't have a single casualty. That is also unprecedented. We joined a select band of just a couple of countries who do such operations in the world. So, about the political, I am not qualified to talk about this versus that. All I am saying is, here it happened. I have served 4 decades in the army, and this obviously has not happened earlier.
Right. No, I will not probe like a journalist would, because like I said, this is more for young people, and therefore, sir, I would request you, the book has different incidents, but if there is that one incident that you were to highlight, is the incident which essentially captures the title of the book, which is India's Brave Hearts, what would that one incident be from the entire book?
Well, I know we're running out of time, but I'm not going to be able to do justice to this question, because I really can't catch one incident as the bigger incident. You seem to have actually caught that incident, and we've discussed only that incident so far, or that chapter or operation so far. So the other parts, let me sum them up together by saying,
Sure.
Since the other parts are not just that one story is better than the other, or one brave story, one sort of action of bravery was braver than the others, to use a very cliched thing. It is to say that these are the stories that I have actually been in the field with my soldiers, because they are all first hand, and they bring out not only the bravery, sometimes they bring out funny things. Like my own boys were firing at me in one particular story that you read, perhaps.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
and finally they actually recognize my floppy hat. There is a story of a soldier who wanted to commit suicide. There's a story of a phone booth. Now, who writes the story of a phone booth, for God's sake? But then there is a story of a phone booth, the story behind the story. Now, having said that, there are also touching sides to it. How to break news to the family. I've said so. How difficult it is to break news to the family. How you feel guilty when you return after an operation that you've come back alive and your Sati did not, and so on and so forth. The only thing I'd like to end with one sentence to say, what touches and tugs at my heart is that those 2 weddings that we got done of the widows of 2 of my brave hearts. I think that provides me so much of satisfaction. I cannot tell you.
No, sir, it's the entire journey that you have encapsulated of each brave heart, just those anecdotes that you've given, I think make for a very compelling read. But before I let you go, sir, with your permission, I want to ask you one final question. What is the one thought that comes to your mind when I say the following word? India. When I say India, sir, what's the one thing that comes to your mind, sir?
Jai Hind.
When I say armed forces, sir, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Soldier.
And when I say youth, what is the first thing that comes to your mind, sir?
The future of our country, because you are going to drive the growth story of India. And if you are going to ask me later, fine. And if not, I'm going to say, please do ask me. I want to leave a small message for the youth.
Please, by all means, we'd be delighted if you could. And that was my final thing. But what is your message in terms of what do you think the youth should do in terms of contributing to the nation, sir? Because not everybody can join the Indian Army. Not everybody, like somebody like me, they'd never take me in the Indian Army. So if we can't make it to the Indian Army, what's that message to young people in terms of contributing to the nation?
First of all, you all are welcome to join the Indian Army, all those who want to join the Indian Armed Forces. And we are very happy to have you because you are the leaders who lead us from front. But for those who could not or will not, I don't blame those who don't want to choose this as their profession. For those who cannot or will not join the Indian Army or Armed Forces, let me say that you don't have to join the army to serve the country.
Right.
You can serve the country by doing whatever you do to the best of your ability. Because the growth story of India, we need all skill sets. We need doctors, engineers, software guys, designers, architects, what have you. We need everyone to make India go from strength to strength. And if you have respect for a soldier, then just be a good citizen. It's tough. You have seen during Corona days, be a good citizen. Be a citizen worth dying for. Jai Hind.
Be a citizen worth dying for, and if we have leaders such as you, I think India is in safe hands. I've read that book and I must recommend to all young people to read the book for only one reason. And I tell you this because after reading a multitude of books and doing this author series with a lot of people, if there is one book that captures the story of India's brave hearts in a very simple, lucid manner, so it's not anything over exaggerated, it's not over the top, it's not using big words and big jargons, it's a very simple read. And the best part about this read is that you will feel proud that you are an Indian. And as Indians, I salute Lieutenant General Satish Duaji for writing the book and for serving the country with such distinction. Sir, it's honestly a pleasure and a privilege to be able to do this with you, sir. Thank you very much for taking your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And also like to inform you and your viewers that soon we'll have a Hindi version of the book also out.
So ये बहुत ही जरूरी और बहुत ही बढ़िया है. And we look forward to that book.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. जी नमस्कार. Thank you. Jai Hind, sir.